A dire discovery. In the silent void between galaxies, an alien research vessel drifted through the lifeless remains of a shattered solar system. Its mission: to study the ruins of a species lost to the relentless march of time. The crew, hailing from a dozen worlds across the Galactic Confederation, worked with meticulous care to catalog and preserve what little remained of this ancient civilization. Xyloth, the ship's senior archaeologist, maneuvered their excavation pod through a dense field of debris that had once been a vibrant planet. Scans indicated this world had been called Earth by its long-dead inhabitants, a name that now only existed in the databanks of the Confederation's historical archives. As the pod weaved through shattered fragments of the planet's crust, Xyloth's keen eyes spotted something unusual amidst the rubble. It was a small black object, its surface pockmarked by millennia of micrometeorite impacts, yet still largely intact. Xyloth manipulated the pod's robotic arms to carefully retrieve the artifact, bringing it into the ship's pressurized hold for further study. Back on the research vessel, the crew gathered around as Xyloth delicately cleaned away the layers of cosmic dust from the object's surface. It was a box of some kind, its exterior composed of a material unlike any they had encountered before. Attempts to scan the interior proved futile, the box's contents shielded by a technology far in advance of their own. Undeterred, Xyloth and the ship's team of expert cryptographers and linguists set to work deciphering the intricate symbols etched into the box's surface. It quickly became clear that this was no ordinary relic. It had been deliberately crafted to preserve some kind of message, a final testament from a species on the brink of annihilation. As the translation matrix finally unscrambled the alien language, a holographic projection flickered to life above the box. The image was of a human female, her features etched with a mix of determination and exhaustion. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of a civilization's final hope. "I am Commander Lena Sorensen of the United Earth Fleet. If you are seeing this message, then our desperate gamble has succeeded, and the harbingers have been contained. But our victory came at a terrible cost." Xyloth and the crew listened in rapt attention as the commander recounted the story of Earth's fall. 60,000 years prior, a relentless biomechanical alien armada known as the Harbingers had emerged from the abyss between galaxies, devouring everything in their path. Humanity, hopelessly outmatched, had fought with a savage brilliance born of desperation. "In the end, we had no choice." Commander Sorensen's image continued, her voice heavy with sorrow. "To stop the Harbingers, we sacrificed our homeworld, our colonies, and nearly our entire species. Using technology we barely understood, we sealed the monsters in a time-locked pocket of null space. But the lock won't hold forever." The commander's eyes seemed to bore into each of the alien researchers as she delivered her dire warning. "The Harbingers will return. We have bought you time, but you must prepare. In this box, you will find the accumulated knowledge of our species, our technology, and our strategies for fighting the Harbingers. Learn from our mistakes, unite as we could not. And above all, be ready. Earth has fallen, but we pray that our sacrifice will not be in vain. The future of the galaxy rests in your hands." As the hologram faded, a heavy silence descended over the ship. Xyloth and the crew exchanged glances filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The magnitude of the human commander's revelations weighed upon them all. 60,000 years ago, while their own civilizations were still in their infancy, humanity had fought a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A war that had ended with the destruction of their entire civilization, all to buy the rest of the galaxy a chance at survival. Xyloth knew that this discovery would change everything. The Galactic Confederation would need to be informed immediately. If the humans' warnings were true, then they had precious little time to prepare for the return of an enemy that had already once brought a mighty species to its knees. As the research vessel set a course for the nearest Confederation outpost, Xyloth couldn't help but marvel at the selfless bravery of a species they had never met. The humans of Earth had given everything to protect a galaxy it would never know of their sacrifice. Now it fell to the rest of the galaxy to honor that sacrifice and ensure that humanity's last stand had not been in vain. The crew of the research vessel had set out to study the past, but now they found themselves entrusted with the future. The saga of the Harbinger War and humanity's final gambit was far from over. Indeed, it was only just beginning. The Harbinger War. 60,000 years before the research vessel's fateful discovery, the galaxy had burned. The Harbingers, a nomadic swarm of biomechanical warships, had descended upon the unsuspecting civilizations of the Orion Arm like a plague of locusts. Their technology was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Living metal that could reshape itself, adapt to any weapon, and consume entire worlds. The first species to fall had been the Zephyri, a peaceful race of avian philosophers. Their grand cities, floating in the clouds of their gas giant homeworld, had been reduced to ash in a matter of days. The Harbingers had harvested the very atoms of their civilization, leaving behind only a lifeless husk of a planet. Next had been the Kreen Dominion, a militant empire spanning a dozen star systems. They had fought bravely, their warrior culture well suited to the brutal realities of the invasion. But even their most advanced warships and battle-hardened soldiers had proven no match for the Harbingers' relentless advance. One by one, their worlds had fallen, their people scattered to the cosmic winds. Across the galaxy, a pattern emerged. The Harbingers would target a civilization, stripping its worlds of all resources and technology before moving on to the next. They were not conquerors, but harvesters, consuming all in their path to fuel their endless expansion. It was against this backdrop of galactic destruction that humanity had risen to meet the challenge. Earth, a small blue world on the edge of the Orion Arm, had been a relative newcomer to the galactic stage. But what they lacked in advanced technology, they made up for in tenacity, ingenuity, and a stubborn refusal to accept defeat. When the Harbingers had reached the edges of human space, they had expected another easy conquest. They were wrong. The United Earth Fleet, a hastily assembled collection of warships and fighter craft, had met the invaders head-on. Led by brilliant tacticians like Admiral Niko Petrov and Commander Lena Sorensen, the humans had fought with a ferocity that had surprised even the battle-hardened Kreen. In the skies above colony worlds like New Horizon and Elysium, human pilots had engaged the Harbingers in daring dogfights, their nimble fighters weaving through the swarms of living metal. On the ground, human Marines had fought street to street, their powered armor and advanced weaponry allowing them to go toe-to-toe with the Harbingers' monstrous ground forces. But for every small victory, there were a dozen defeats. The Harbingers' numbers seemed endless, their technology adapting to every new strategy the humans devised. Slowly, inexorably, humanity had been pushed back, their colonies falling one by one. Yet even in the face of annihilation, the humans had refused to give up. As their worlds burned, they had poured all of their resources, all of their brilliant scientific minds, into a desperate plan. If they could not defeat the Harbingers through conventional means, they would use the very fabric of the universe against them. Deep in the heart of the Sol system, in the labs of Mars and the shipyards of Titan, humanity had begun construction on a weapon unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The device that could tear a hole in space-time itself, creating a pocket dimension from which nothing could escape. It was a project born of desperation, a Hail Mary pass in the final seconds of the game. Many had argued against it, warning of the unpredictable consequences of tampering with the fundamental laws of the universe. But in the end, there had been no choice. It was this or extinction. As the Harbingers had closed in on Earth, the device had been activated. In a blinding flash of light, a rift had opened in the fabric of reality, a swirling vortex of null space that had swallowed the Harbinger fleet whole. But the device had not discriminated between invader and defender, and Earth, humanity's cradle, had been caught in the maelstrom. In the end, the Harbingers had been sealed away, but at the cost of humanity's homeworld. and billions of lives. A handful of colony ships, launched in the final days of the war, had carried the remnants of the species to the stars, but Earth itself had been lost, a shattered remnant of a once vibrant world. The Harbinger War had been won, but the cost had been unimaginable. And now, 60,000 years later, the bill was about to come due once more. The research vessel and its crew, armed with the knowledge of humanity's sacrifice, raced back to the heart of the Galactic Confederation, a dire warning on their lips. The Harbingers would return, and the galaxy needed to be ready. The legacy of Earth and the sacrifices of humanity had granted them a reprieve, but now it was up to the Confederation to finish what the humans had started. The future of the galaxy would be forged in the fires of the coming conflict, and the memory of Earth would light the way. Heeding the warning, news of the research vessel's discovery spread like wildfire through the Galactic Confederation. The ancient black box and the dire warning it contained became the sole focus of every political leader, military strategist, and scientific mind in the Allied systems. For Xyloth, the weight of responsibility was immense. As the archaeologists who had uncovered the box, they found themselves thrust into the center of a galactic crisis. They were called before the Confederation Council, a gathering of representatives from 100 different species, to present their findings and advise on the best course of action. In the grand chambers of the council, Xyloth stood before a sea of worried faces. They spoke of the bravery and sacrifice of the human race, of the terrible threat of the Harbingers, and of the precious opportunity the humans had given them. "We must heed their warning," Xyloth implored, their voice ringing through the chamber. "The humans bought us time with their blood and their worlds. We must not let their sacrifice be in vain." The council debated fiercely, some arguing for a preemptive strike against the predicted location of the Harbinger's return, others for a more defensive strategy. But all agreed on one thing: the Confederation could not face this threat divided. They would need to stand together, to pool their resources and knowledge, if they were to have any hope of survival. Under the direction of the Council, the Confederation began to prepare. Mighty warships were constructed in the shipyards of a dozen worlds, their designs inspired by the schematics and tactical data left behind by humanity. Scientists and engineers pored over the advanced technologies described in the black box, attempting to recreate and improve upon the weapons that had allowed humanity to stand against the Harbingers. On the frontiers of Confederation space, colonies were evacuated, their populations relocated to more defensible systems. Fortifications were built, supply lines secured, and military drills conducted with a newfound sense of urgency. But not all were convinced of the severity of the threat. Some dismissed the warning as a hoax, a ploy by the Council to seize more power and control. Others, driven by fear or greed, chose to flee to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, hoping to escape the coming storm. Xyloth found themselves at the forefront of the preparation efforts, their expertise in human culture and technology making them an invaluable asset. They worked tirelessly, coordinating with military leaders and scientific teams to ensure that the Confederation was as ready as it could be. But as the years ticked by and the predicted time of the Harbinger's return drew near, a sense of dread began to settle over the galaxy. The black box, for all its invaluable information, could not tell them everything. How exactly would the Harbingers return? What new horrors would they bring? And would the Confederation, even with all its preparations, be strong enough to face them? These questions weighed heavily on Xyloth as they stood on the bridge of the Confederation flagship, watching the stars drift by. They thought of the humans, of the brave commander Lena Sorensen, and her final desperate message. They thought of the trillions of lives across the Confederation, all depending on the decisions made in these critical moments. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of their sensors, the Harbingers were stirring. The time lock that had held them at bay was crumbling, and soon they would be free to resume their relentless march across the stars. The Galactic Confederation, the greatest alliance of species the galaxy had ever known, stood on the precipice of its greatest challenge. The legacy of humanity, The sacrifices they had made and the knowledge they had left behind would be put to the ultimate test. As the countdown to the Harbinger's return ticked ever closer, Xyloth couldn't shake the feeling that the true extent of the galaxy's trial was yet to be revealed. The warnings had been heard, the preparations made, but would it be enough? Only time, and the crucible of war, would tell. Return of the Harbingers. The day the galaxy had been dreading finally arrived. Exactly 60,000 years after the activation of humanity's time-lock device, an enormous energy surge was detected at the edge of Confederation space. The Harbingers had returned. The first to face their onslaught was the Alien system, a strategic linchpin in the Confederation's defensive line. The moment the alarm was raised, the system's defensive fleet moved into position, their ships bristling with advanced weapons derived from human technology. But nothing could have fully prepared them for the sheer scale of the Harbinger invasion. Thousands of biomechanical warships, each the size of a small moon, emerged from the rift in space-time. Their hulls pulsed with an eerie living energy, and their weapons burned with a cold, destructive light. The battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The Confederation ships fought bravely, their human-inspired tactics allowing them to punch well above their weight. They used gravity wells to disrupt the Harbinger's formations, molecular disruptors to break down their living metal hulls, and phased energy weapons to bypass their adaptive shields. But for every Harbinger ship destroyed, a dozen more took its place. The Confederation fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, fought a desperate holding action, buying time for civilian transports to evacuate the system. Among the evacuation fleet was Xyloth, tasked with safeguarding a group of high-ranking Confederation officials. As their ship raced away from the battle, Xyloth couldn't tear their eyes away from the viewport. They watched as the Confederation ships, dwarfed by the monstrous Harbinger vessels, fought and died in bursts of silent light. The fall of the Alien system was just the beginning. Like a tidal wave of destruction, the Harbingers swept across Confederation space, their advance seemingly unstoppable. Mighty warships and well-defended colonies fell before them, the Confederation forces fighting desperately to slow their progress. At the heart of the Confederation, the Council worked feverishly to coordinate the defense. Every ship, every soldier, every scrap of resources was thrown into the fight. But it was a losing battle. The Harbingers, just as they had done 60,000 years ago, were gradually, methodically, dismantling the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. In the midst of this chaos, Xyloth found themselves drawn back to the black box, poring over its contents for any scrap of information that could turn the tide. They studied the records of humanity's final battles, searching for any tactic or technology that the Confederation hadn't yet tried. It was during one of these late-night research sessions that Xyloth made a startling discovery. Hidden deep within the data was a set of coordinates, a location far beyond the edges of Confederation space. According to the fragmented records, it was the site of a secret human project, a last-ditch effort to preserve their species in the event of total defeat. Xyloth brought this information to the Council, arguing that this hidden human outpost could hold the key to defeating the Harbingers. If there were survivors, or if the outpost contained some yet unknown technology, it could change the course of the war. The Council, desperate for any glimmer of hope, agreed. A small, fast ship was dispatched, with Xyloth at the helm, to investigate the coordinates. It was a perilous journey, through uncharted space and dangerously close to the Harbinger's lines of advance. What they found at those coordinates would change everything. As their ship dropped out of hyperspace, they were greeted by the sight of a massive space station, its design unmistakably human. And docked with the station was a ship, a sleek, powerful vessel unlike any Xyloth had seen before. The ship hailed them, and a human voice crackled over the comms. "This is Captain Aidan Sorensen of the UES Phoenix, representing the last remnants of the United Earth Federation. We received your transmission and stand ready to assist. Humanity has returned to finish the fight." Humanity's legacy. Xyloth could hardly believe what they were hearing. A human ship, crewed by the descendants of Earth's survivors, here at the edge of known space. It was like a dream, a desperate hope made manifest. The UES Phoenix was a marvel of engineering, a testament to humanity's tenacity and brilliance. Built in secret during the final years of the Harbinger War, it incorporated technologies that even the Confederation had yet to discover. Faster, stronger, and more advanced than any ship in the galaxy, it was humanity's last, best hope. Captain Aiden Sorensen, a tall, broad-shouldered human with a striking resemblance to the commander from the Black Box, greeted Xyloth aboard the Phoenix. He explained that after Earth's destruction, the surviving colony ships had found this hidden outpost. For generations, they had been preparing, studying the Harbingers, and planning for the day when they would return to the fight. Xyloth shared all they had learned from the Black Box, and together they formulated a plan. The Phoenix would spearhead a counterattack, using its advanced technologies to strike at the heart of the Harbinger fleet. Meanwhile, Xyloth would return to the Confederation with news of humanity's survival and the promise of reinforcements. The journey back was perilous, but Xyloth made it, delivering the news to a shocked and elated Confederation Council. The revelation that humanity had survived and was returning to fight alongside them reinvigorated the Confederation's war effort. Across the galaxy, a new hope began to spread. The final battle, when it came, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The UES Phoenix, flanked by the most powerful ships of the Confederation, struck at the Harbingers like a bolt of lightning. Using advanced human weapons and tactics gleaned from the Black Box, they tore through the biomechanical swarms, shattering their formations and disrupting their communications. At the forefront of the battle was Captain Sorensen, his ship a shining beacon of human resilience and determination. Under his leadership, the combined human and Confederation forces drove the Harbingers back, liberating system after system. The war was long and costly, but in the end, the Harbingers were defeated. Their ships, once thought indestructible, lay broken and lifeless across 100 battlefields. The rift in space-time that had brought them was sealed, this time forever, using a combination of human and Confederation technology. In the aftermath of the war, a new era dawned for the galaxy. The Confederation, humbled and inspired by humanity's sacrifice and resilience, vowed to build a better future, a future of unity, of cooperation, and of shared purpose. At the center of this new age stood the humans, no longer a lost and mythical species, but a vital part of the galactic community. The UES Phoenix became a symbol of hope and strength, a reminder of the power of determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Xyloth, whose discovery had set these events in motion, found themselves at the forefront of a new wave of exploration and understanding. They led expeditions to the ruins of Earth, seeking to uncover more of humanity's lost history and wisdom. They worked to integrate human knowledge and technology into the Confederation, ensuring that the lessons of the past would never be forgotten. As the galaxy rebuilt and prospered, the legacy of Earth and the sacrifices of the human race lived on. In every ship that sailed the stars, in every new world that was settled, in every scientific breakthrough that pushed the boundaries of knowledge, there was a piece of that legacy. The Harbingers had been defeated, but the story of the galaxy was far from over. With humanity and the Confederation standing together, united by a shared history and a common purpose, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The future, once so dark and uncertain, now shone with the light of 1,000,000 stars, each one a beacon of hope and possibility. And so, the tale of Earth's fall and humanity's triumph became a legend, passed down from generation to generation, a reminder of the strength that lies within, and the power of unity in the face of even the darkest of threats. The galaxy would never forget, and never again would it stand alone.